For over half a century, the US dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance. Its system, SWIFT, has been the unchallenged nervous system of international money flows. But that dominance is now being contested. China is executing a long-term strategic plan to internationalize its currency, the yen. And at the heart of this strategy is a system you may not have heard of, the Cross-border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS. This isn't just about economics, it's about power, autonomy, and the creation of new multipolar world order. And nations across Africa and Middle East are signing on. This is the story of CIPS. First, to understand the machinery, SWIFT, or the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, is a messaging network. It doesn't hold or move money. It sends payment orders between banks, which then must be settled through correspondent accounts. This process can be slow, taking several days. China launched CIPS in 2015 as a direct competitor. But it's more than just a messaging system. CIPS is a clearing and settlement system specifically for yen transactions. It allows for real-time cross-border payments in Chinese currency. Think of it this way: SWIFT is a global postal service for payment instructions. CIPS is an express courier that also delivers the package itself and is growing at a staggering rate. In 2024 alone, CIPS processed over 8.2 million transactions with a value of nearly 175.5 trillion yen. That's a year-on-year increase of 43%. The system now boasts over 1,600 direct and indirect participants, spanning more than 180 countries. But recently, the strategy shifted. China is now adding key strategic partners as direct participants. To understand why countries are suddenly so interested in alternatives, we must look at the events of the year 2022. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the United States and its European allies enacted an unprecedented financial sanctions. They disconnected selected Russian banks from the SWIFT network. The immediate impact was severe. The ruble fell. Russian businesses struggled to pay for imports or receive payments for exports. The move demonstrated with brutal clarity that access to global financial systems could be revoked as a tool of foreign policy. Overnight, many nations not directly involved in the conflict saw a new and terrifying risk. If your geopolitical stance ever diverged from Washington's, your economy could be switched off. This wasn't just a warning for rivals like Iran or North Korea. It was a wake-up call for every nation that valued economic sovereignty. The search for alternatives began in earnest. Russia fast-tracked its own System for Transfer for Financial Messages, or SPFS. China saw its movement and began aggressively promoting CIPS. The weaponization of SWIFT didn't create the desire for an alternative system, but it absolutely turbocharged it. This brings us to Africa. China has been the continent's largest trading partner for 15 consecutive years. Bilateral trade hit $296 billion in 2024. But this trade has a problem. It's largely dollar-dominated. An African importer buying Chinese machinery must first convert local currency to dollars, then send those dollars via SWIFT before the Chinese exporter convert them to yen. Each step adds cost, time, and exposure to exchange rate fluctuations. So recently, China included some African banks such as African Export-Import Bank and Standard Bank as direct CIPS participants. And this move changes the calculus entirely. For African nations, the benefits are tangible. First, reduce transaction costs. By settling directly in yen, African banks and businesses bypass the dollar and its associated fees. Estimates suggest potential savings of 2 to 4% on every transaction. For a continent where remittance fees are among the highest in the world, this is a significant gain. Second, faster settlement. CIPS can settle payment in seconds compared to the multi-day process through traditional channels. This speed improves cash flow and reduces settlement risks for businesses. Third, enhanced trade efficiency. Simplified payment processes makes it easier for African exporters to sell to China and for importers to buy Chinese goods. potentially deepening the most important trade relationship on the continent. And fourth, geopolitical hedging. Participation in CIPS is a form of insurance. It diversifies Africa's financial connectivity, reducing its vulnerability to potential future Western sanctions or policy shifts. It is a pragmatic move, driven by economics and desire for greater strategic autonomy. Africa is just one piece of the global puzzle. China is building a coalition of the financially interested. The addition of First Abu Dhabi Bank brings the oil-rich Gulf into the fold. The inclusion of the Bank of Kazakhstan strengthens China's financial footprint in the Central Asia, a key region for its Belt and Road Initiative. The expansion is strategically synchronized with other nations seeking to circumvent Western systems. Russia and Iran, both heavily sanctioned, are actively exploring their own payment systems and deepening economic ties with China. This isn't a unified bloc, but a constellation of countries, each with its own motivations, all finding common cause in building financial alternatives. The goal is not necessarily to replace the dollar or SWIFT overnight. That will be impossible in the short term. The goal is to create a viable system, to build an off-ramp from the dollar-based system for those who wish or need to use it. Despite its rapid growth, CIPS faces significant headwinds. The US dollar's dominance is deeply entrenched. It still accounts for nearly half of all global payments. The yen's share, whilst growing, is still under 3%. Furthermore, China maintains capital control. The yen is not fully convertible. This limits its appeal as a true global reserve currency on par with dollar or euro. There are also political risks. Deeper integration with Chinese financial system means greater exposure to Chinese policy decisions and potential geopolitical friction with the West. The path forward is not about replacement, but about fragmentation. We are moving toward a more complex, multipolar financial world where countries and corporations will have a choice of systems. The expansion of CIPS is a signature event in the greater micro-story of the 21st century. The gradual, contentious, and uneven shift from a unipolar to a multipolar world. It is a story of power and the desire to rebalance it. For the United States, it is a challenging to a fundamental pillar of its global influence. For China, it is a critical step in the long-term strategy to secure its economic and geopolitical interests. And for all countries across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, it is a tool, a means to reduce costs, to increase efficiency, and most importantly, to gain a measure of agency in the world where financial power has become a primary battlefield for geopolitical influence. The dollar's reign is not over, but its monopoly is almost over. The financial future will not be a single highway, but a network of many different roads, and CIPS is fast becoming one of the most important routes on the new map. And that is all for today's episode. If you find this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. This is AS1 Report. My name is Sheriff Haruna. Thank you very much for watching. Have a joyful life and see you in the next one. Macrao.